Hi, everybody. Lindsey here, and I'm with Hailey, owner of Cactus Co.
Hello.
Look how cute we are with our mics.
Little floopy little mics.
I know, these are fun. Okay, so we are at Cactus Co, as you can see. So we're just going to get right into it. So, Hailey, give me a little start of how this all became.
I feel like sometimes it's a really long story, actually, but I do feel like I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I often think back to when I was a little girl, spending all of my spare time in my dad's basement, pretending to operate a business for fun.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yes, but then when I got into the workforce, I feel like I really got more of a glimpse into how much I actually loved operating a business, a retail business at that. My first job, I worked at a tanning salon and I worked my way up to manager. And I got to take so much ownership in running the salon. I feel like I often got to run it as if it was my own. I learned how much I love merchandising, customer service, building a team, all of that. So I got to take a lot of ownership there while I was in college, actually studying business administration. So I've always had, I feel like, the idea that I wanted to run a business, but I never had like a clear vision of what that would be. So I ended up actually leaving my first job to go work at a bank. And this is where my plans got a little bit diverted. I stayed at the bank for about a year, thinking that was like my first step into like my future career.
She loved it.
I absolutely hated it. I feel like I didn't get to do those things that I like really loved at my first job. I felt like I was really restricted. And so I ended up having a sit down conversation with my husband, telling him how I was feeling. And at that point, we decided that I could leave that job. And I left really without like a clear backup plan. But I knew I wanted to find and pursue something I felt a bit more passionate about, that I was a little bit more excited about. So at that time, I actually got into more content creation and sharing things online. So I got started in fitness. I was sharing about sobriety. And then I started a podcast with my friend. But where Cactus Co came into play was after I had moved to Camano Island. I was really looking to get involved in the community, meet more people, do some of those things I felt like a bit more passionate about and had a little bit more fun with. This was after like COVID as well. So we really weren't getting a ton of social interaction. So for me, Cactus Co started as a part-time job. I'm actually not the founder of Cactus Co. I just started working here part-time when I was looking for work. And what's funny is this all came to be because I actually applied to work at the local tanning salon. And then I told my best friend Jessica that I had applied, and she was like, "Oh, I bet you Caitlin would hire you at the plant store." So I knew I was looking to go back to like some environment where I could work with customers, have fun merchandising. And then I ended up getting a job at Cactus Co. But about 6 months into that, the previous owner, she was shifting directions. She wanted to step away from the plant store, but she didn't want to close it. And she actually wrote in my Christmas card that the plant store was mine if I wanted it.
Crazy.
I know. Just a little Cactus Co was a Christmas present, actually.
After 6 months.
6 months.
That's wild.
Okay. But I feel like I was really like the right person to do this. I feel like everything just lined up for me to take over. I always had wanted to own a retail store. When I had left the bank, I started envisioning like what I would want to do, and having a store was something I wanted, but I never had like a clear vision of like what that store would be. I also didn't have like a clear path of like, how the hell do you open a store?
Right.
Where do you get the capital? All of that. So really it just started as a part-time job and landed in my lap.
Amazing. If you didn't know, worked under Hailey was my boss, and I was trying on the way here. Was it 3 years? Was it 2022?
That you started? Yes, 2022 is when we took over. And I remember you started with us, and then you left, what, like a year and a half ago?
I know. But it was crazy. I did the same thing too, because I was in banking for a long time, and I'm like, COVID, I had to work from home and I needed socialization. I'm like, can I please work here? And it was the best 3 years ever. And if you've been in here, you can see her passion with merchandising and like making sure everything's super cute. And no, it's pretty cool.
I feel like it also gives me like a unique perspective to helping people with plants, because I like didn't study botany. Like I'm not a plant expert. I started here knowing nothing about houseplants.
Same.
Honestly, the fact that I got the job is wild.
I know, I interviewed with Jess too, and I'm like, I only know a little bit about plants. Do you have to be an expert to work here? And she said, download this app. You'll be fine.
No, I'm the type of person, I love to do like a ton of research. I'm really good at learning products. So I knew that I could pick things up pretty quick. But like I said, I feel like it gives me the opportunity to help people who like aren't plant experts bring plants into their space and do so with confidence. So.
And she certainly does that. Okay, so we have a few questions. A few of these you've answered. What inspired you to start the business? Oh, well, this is a good one. Early reality check. What was the hardest moment in the early days that made you question whether this would actually work?
I think we really started strong. 2022, 2023, business was booming. And then 2024 hit, and we started to see a consistent decline in sales. And I think for me, that was probably the biggest reality check because I had wanted to grow at a certain rate, be open all of the time, expand our hours, carry all of the products, say yes to all of the opportunities. But I started to realize that we needed the cash flow in order to manage all of that. So I think the first time I had to invest money into the business was probably the biggest reality check, just because it forced me to get my priorities straight and really figure out how to manage our finances so that we could sustain long term. That was probably it.
If you were living under a rock during COVID, plant sales were insane. I worked at Cascade Tropicals, and even for the wholesale business, like they just had one greenhouse at that time. And they were like, we had 3 employees and one greenhouse, and they had to expand like crazy. And we were chatting too, like some of the like Thai constellations and if you're not a plant nerd, it's a very expensive plant at one point, but like a 2-inch at one time was what, like,
I remember paying like $150
for a 2-inch
sale, like my cost.
So it's just interesting how things change price wise and how you have to like pivot and adapt and like, okay, what do we do next to face the reality of the situation? So,
and I think a lot of people really got into houseplants when they were working from home. Like you said, that's when me and Dustin got into houseplants, got our first 2. So I feel like a lot of people were working from home more inside, but then when they were going back to work post COVID, things started to shift for us a little bit.
We can all relate to that one, I think. Okay, let's see. Inspiration and influence. So, who inspired or mentored you along the way? And this is actually a good one too with coaching. Like, do you have a coach that you work with? Yeah.
I have definitely worked with a couple of coaches, and I would say I learned a lot from a brand coach and website builder. Her name is Chelsea. She taught me the importance of branding, colors, fonts, things like that. That's something I really apply in my business nowadays. We use pink and green. We have our font set, and I really try to stay on brand in all of our marketing. So I definitely learned a lot from her. I also will say there's somebody named Amanda Kuda who she initially inspired me to quit drinking, even though I didn't have a rock bottom experience. That is something that has served me really well in business. I've had the opportunity to be coached and mentored by her. But then I also think about the owners at the tanning salon that I worked at. Dan Mann and his sons, Michael and Daniel, they taught me a lot about like customer service, the customer experience. They taught me a lot about owning a business, how to operate a business. And so I feel like to this day, I actually think it's funny sometimes when I'm closing the plant store, I will not turn the open sign off until like exactly closing time.
Oh.
Because they always taught us like you're open for business until you're closed. And even nowadays, like if you're here like right past closing, like I'll still let you in to shop. So they taught me a lot about customer service, making things right, and just taking ownership of a business as well.
Oh, I love that.
I will say too, I feel like I find a lot of inspiration in musicians. Like I love watching a documentary on an artist. Like I watched one on Lainey Wilson or Zara Larson, and you see their stories of literally like working hard for 10 years and then they like finally make it. Sometimes I like to inspire myself with those stories and just remember I'm still in the early days. So
you can find inspiration really in any entrepreneur in any field, but the nitty and gritty with musicians, it's quite the journey.
Inspiring.
It really is. Okay, advice to dream chasers. So if someone listening and watching right now has a business idea but they're scared to start, what would you tell them?
I think you can start small. Like I said, Cactus Co really started as a part-time job for me, but I also think like we started with just selling houseplants. We slowly started to increase the inventory that we sell, bringing in planters, plant care items. But you don't have to do it all at once. I don't think you also have to take on a ton of debt in order to get started with your business. So you can definitely start small, even with your hours. Like you don't have to be open every day. You can gradually increase. I think it's smarter to do things that way because you're not taking on a ton of debt that you're trying to pay back. Instead, you can slowly grow and see the needs and build the revenue. And I also think like taking care of yourself is probably the most important thing.
Yes.
As a business owner, it can be super easy to get wrapped up in results, but I find that I am the happiest when I am doing things outside of my business that feel good. So, like working out, starting a new hobby thing, I would definitely say take care of yourself and start small.
And walking your gorgeous puppy.
Oh, I do walks with my dog every single morning.
Yeah.
And I love that I just have the flexibility to do that and the
Yes.
ability to spend my mornings with my dog and then come into work.
It's important too for any entrepreneurs to time block your personal time, your business time, just because it can get overwhelming because you want to be all the things all the time to everybody. So, no, that's awesome. All right. And then to close it out, just go ahead and do your plugging. How can someone reach out to you for any questions, plant questions, hours, operation, all that fun stuff?
So Cactus & Co., our retail store is located on Camano Island. We're at Terry's Corner. We are open most days besides Wednesday. We're open 11 to 5 and then 11 to 4 on Sundays. We have a website, cactusandcocamano.com. You can find us on Instagram at Cactus & Co Camano. We also offer in-office planting events. So if you've got a team of people and you want a fun little activity for them, you can book an event online. We'll bring the plants, the planters, all of the fun vibes, and then your team gets to leave with something super cute and fun. So
Ooh, those are always fun events. And you also do for the kids thing too.
I will say I've had to step
Yeah.
back from Kids Fest because it is a huge investment financially. And so that's one of those things I've had to like reality check. Is this something that I can sustain?
Right.
But that is something that gave me so much practice for these in-office planting events.
No, and that's the thing. You just have to try it. Just do it and then see if it works. And if not, then pivot and do something else. But awesome. Well, thanks for having me here.
Yes.
I got to go shop for a plant now. All right. Thank you, Hailey. And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Bye.